Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. My name is Morris Fox Jr., and this has become the podcast. How do you become anything? You dream, you declare, you commit, and success is your next breath. Today we are listening to none other than the sounds of Miles Davis. I won't act as though I know a lot about Miles Davis from a historical standpoint, why it was so important to the contribution of jazz. Sometimes I know a little bit about the artist, a lot of it about the artist. I just know that Miles Davis is a bad boy. I know he's important to the evolution of jazz, and I just leave it at that. I'll make sure that I know more about the next artist. So I did a bunch of running around yesterday, and I wasn't able to do my normal prep for this morning. And so at the end of every night, I get out my notebook and I write down the theme, I write down my 3 points of contact, come up with a story. And I wasn't able to do that. I was doing a lot of moving last night, got home, I don't know, at about 10:30 and ate some Frosted Flakes and went to bed. And so I thought about it while I was, eating and talking with Sarah, and I said, okay, I think I got something. And so I've always said I believe that we can generate negative energy, right? And it's, you see enough of it where you believe it and you don't need further explanation. So you can generate negative energy, you can generate positive energy, but I never understood like how. There's a higher level of thinking that's taking place. There's a higher level of being. There's a higher level of just understanding of energy and how it flows and whatnot. And there's that, but I think on a very primitive level, I think these universal laws and concepts reveal themselves on a very basic level, right? So I used to always wonder again, how do people generate negative energy? How does one bring that negative energy into their lives? And I worked with someone for a hot second where I was able to see it in exercise, and then at the same time I was asked to do a workshop on the topic of unconscious bias. And unconscious bias is it's these blind spots. It's these blind spots that impact our behavior. So biases are prejudice or favor against one thing, a person, a group compared to another that usually is considered unfair. Okay? So again, you're favoring this group of people or this person, and it causes you to act unfairly toward another person. So the bias can be, I'm going to favor this group, and I'm going to act unfairly to this person over here, right? I'm going to be prejudiced. I'm going to kind of exclude this person, or I'm going to act favorably toward this person, and then I'm going to be unfair toward this group. And another way that someone talked about unconscious bias is it's telling someone else's narrative before they themselves tell you their narrative. So it's like I see somebody and I have all these prejudice, and prejudice is prejudgment, right? So I have all this prejudice, so I prejudge this person ahead of time, and it's like I start telling this person's narrative before they tell me their narrative. And one of the great illustrations is you shake somebody's hand, right? So as a man, I shake another male's hand, and they give me a very soft handshake. And in America, and in my family, I was always raised to give somebody a firm handshake. I was taught that since I was a young kid. And so I shake somebody's hand, and then they give me a handshake that isn't firm. So the first thing I assume is they're soft, or I assume this person is less than a man, and how unconscious bias is poured into this, and how it's tied to the notion that we can sometimes tell people's narrative before they themselves tell the narrative. Is I'm now assuming that this person is less than a man, but in all actuality, maybe they're recovering from a hand injury, and they simply don't have the hand strength. Or maybe, all depending on the culture, maybe they weren't taught to try to break somebody's hand when you first meet them to establish their masculinity. You know, I deal with some dudes, man, that literally try to bring you down to your knees with a handshake. It's like, fam, okay, you win, man. You win. You more man than me right now. But there's some guys who feel like I can just give you a handshake. I ain't got to break you down or anything like that. And we can still, but I'm still here to, you know, but I still need your respect, and I'm still worthy of your respect. So with unconscious bias, as I started reading more about unconscious bias, I started learning about these other biases. There's these other biases that take place. And so I just wanted to kind of give you this story and give you my interpretation of how I think bias is one of the key factors that helps us or that generates negative energy or attracts negative energy. So I'm working for this one place, and I won't say any names or anything, but I will tell you that the place in which I was working is in higher education, and the main person involved was a white queer female. Okay, white queer female. So she had come in from another job, and she was waitressing, and she was in the interview process. She was kind of just speaking her truths, being honest and sharing and saying that she felt that as a queer woman, she got a lot of. She felt that she received a lot of judgment, and a lot of times people wouldn't want to sit at her tables where she was waitressing, because they thought that they had problems with her being a queer. Now, she had the mohawk look or whatever, but other than that, I don't know if you could tell she was queer, right? She wasn't wearing a shirt that said this, and it's not like she waitressed with her partner attached to her hip or anything like that. So, like, other than the haircut, I don't know if there's any other way that they could tell what her sexual orientation was. But that was her truth, right? So she's in this interview, and she's, you know, speaking her truths or whatever, and so eventually I was a part of the interview process. I didn't hire her, but I was a part of the interview process. And so we ended up hiring her. And so she comes in with this idea that one can be treated based upon how they look. Okay? Or maybe one can be treated based upon their haircut. Because again, just from looking at her, I can't tell what her sexual orientation is. I can assume all I want, but I can't tell for sure. But she thought that people didn't want to sit at her sections, at her tables, because of how she was living her life, right? And again, this is the people that are meeting you for a split second. They're meeting you for maybe a half an hour to 45 minutes that they're sitting in this table or this booth or this restaurant. And all of a sudden, they're able to draw all these conclusions. And she's saying to herself, these people don't want to have me wait on them because of all these other things that they know about me. But my thing is, how do they know all these things about you? How do they know all these things about you in such a short amount of time? So again, there's some assumptions that are taking place. There's some work that there's some work and there's some responsibility that's involved on the person's part, right? On this young lady's part, that is impacting how she feels about herself and how she feels about the world around her. So she gets this new job in higher education, and you know, kids are kids, and they adjust. The person who previously occupied the job that this queer woman was now occupying the previous person. The kids loved her, right? The kids loved her. They adored her. She made a lot of sense to the staff. She made a lot of sense to the culture that this building that created. And so to have this new person in place, it always takes some time. You know what I'm saying? Anytime somebody that is in a position and they leave and now you got to replace that person, even if you replace them with somebody that's awesome, it takes a minute. So the kids were not very receptive because they just wanted the old thing back. You know what I'm saying? And on occasion, the person who previously worked for this place would come back and she would just hang out. So it's like, while everybody's trying to get over the hump and kind of move beyond the past, she would make herself present. And sometimes that would make it difficult for the new person to exist and to develop that appreciation and love and whatnot, because, it's like being in a relationship and you're trying to get over your old fling. And so now you got a new fling or you got a new flame, but the old flame keeps like just popping up and it makes it hard for you to move on. So it's a pretty I don't know, just rocky road, right? It's about a couple months in, and this new person is just constantly getting into it with students. She's not disliked by everybody. She develops a few relationships, but it's just tough, man. Kids are kids, and for whatever reason, she just can't seem to figure it out. So you have her people kind of defending her and working to, set her up for success the best way possible. But it all came to a head one day. We were about to do a big overhaul over our website. And so we were getting all of the professional staff, and we were getting some involvement or participation from the students to look at our website and to make some adjustments. And this queer woman, she was kind of leading the charge on this, right? So she was going to do the bulk of the presenting, talk about the findings. She had done a bunch of research looking at other websites, and she was going to provide this information. And then from there, we were going to dissect it, add on to it, break it down so we can come up with a direction for how we were going to improve the website. So she does this. Now, mind you, she's got not the greatest relationships with some of the students. So she does this presentation, and she's being challenged. She's being challenged by the entire staff. And it's one of those things where it's like, again, she's being challenged by the staff, and the staff is just doing some critical thinking. They're just voicing their opinion. Everybody's just speaking out. We're supposed to be coming up with critique and coming up with things to think about so that we can make sure that we're moving in the right direction. And again, this is the same person who assumed that people didn't want to sit in her section because of how she looked, her sexual orientation. Again, this person was assuming that these people don't want to sit in my section because they know about my sexual orientation. In a very short amount of time, they discovered all these things about me, and because of that, they don't want to sit. So we're dealing with that frame of mind, okay? So as we're now doing this presentation, and we're giving some feedback, she's growing more and more frustrated, more and more upset, because instead of her assuming that this is just what creative processes look like, she assumed that she was being attacked. And then on top of it, the students were getting involved as well. Now, the students were involved because they were asked to be involved, but now because of her relationship with the students, she's assuming that the students are now attacking her. And she's probably assuming that the students are attacking her more than her professional staff, but she assumed that she was going to put together this presentation and no one was going to have any pushback whatsoever. Everybody was just going to, root her on and say, this is amazing, amazing work. Oh my gosh, this is incredible work. Man, high five, give me a fist bump. She wasn't expecting that someone would say, well, listen, I disagree with this and this. What if we looked at this site and this site? What if we changed this? What if we move this up, move this down, move this to the left and to the right? Then what would it look like? So we get done with our presentation. I'm watching and I'm seeing her roll her eyes at the students, and she has students helping her. She has students like working to help her, and she's so caught up in her feelings that she can't see the difference between a student like helping her and being innocent in their in their critique or just innocent in their inquiry. She's just assuming that everybody's coming after her, right? So after it's all said and done, one of the professional staff members, one of the leadership staff members says, hey, I'm going to go upstairs for a second. Well, I'm going to go downstairs for a second. I want everybody to stay here. I want everybody to stay here. Don't move, right? So that took about 20 minutes. It took about 20 minutes. And what they were doing was they were giving this person a birthday cake or birthday surprise. The person, the queer woman, they were giving her a birthday surprise. And in this 20 minutes, she found a way to disappear and she went home. So on the day when we were going to celebrate her, she left. She went home. So here this person think that no one else is loving on them. No one cares about them. No one likes them. Everyone's against them. She thought that everybody at the restaurant was against her. She thought that the staff, the student staff was against her. She thought that on some level, maybe the professional staff was against her. She thought that everybody was attacking her work for this presentation. She had done all this hard work. And here it is, at the end of it, they want to give her a surprise birthday party. They got like 2 pies and an ice cream cake and we were going to just shut down the day and just talk and share, enjoy and eat and get cavities, eating all this sugary food. And she left. And this led me to my discovery. The way in which we generate negativity is through confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is when you look for evidence to confirm that you look for evidence to confirm that your ideas are right. And then that eventually has an impact on your behavior. So it's like if I said, man, nobody likes me in this place. If I say that enough, I start believing it. And then when I start believing it and it becomes a part of my subconscious, what I start doing is I start looking for the evidence to confirm that I'm right. I start looking for evidence to confirm that no one likes me. So I might have 10 situations in which people show that they like me, show that they care about me, show that they love me, show that they want to help me, show that they support me. But I might have 3 situations that could go either way. Meaning I might walk in on a conversation, and as I walk in on that conversation, everybody laughs. And I assume y'all laughing at me. Not realizing that maybe I just jumped in on a conversation that's just funny. They could have been talking about somebody else. Had I just said, hey, what y'all talking about? They might have been like, oh, wow, Marv, you missed it. Let's talk to did you hear about the story about Randall? Did you hear about the story? And then we go from there. Or maybe I come into a room and they say, excuse me, Marv, could you just get excuses for one moment? And I assume that they must be talking about me. They must not want me to be a part of the group. Now realizing that maybe they're having a conversation with a sensitive topic, or maybe they need some confidentiality and they just want their privacy. But when you have the confirmation bias and you assume that everybody likes you, what you start doing is you start assuming that, well, they must be plotting against me. And here it is, this young lady thought that everybody was working against her. And I think it's the same way. I think it's the same way when you believe that everybody likes you, that can hurt you too, but can also benefit you. Because a lot of times because when you assume that everybody likes you, you can find yourself in some precarious, situations as well. But when you assume that people like you, when you start imposing your will on people, imposing your presence on people, sometimes you can force people to kind of look at you sideways, like, listen, man, give me a break. Give me a break from all that is you, right? So, long story short, confirmation bias. Watch out for it. Watch out for it. Make sure that when you have certain feelings about other people and how you think they are perceiving you, make sure that some of that ain't about you. Make sure that you're not working, make sure you're not dealing with some things that is forcing you to think about, make sure you're not working through some things that's forcing you to think this way. Meaning, sometimes when you start thinking that everybody's working against you, a lot of times it's really something you need to work through. Like, it ain't about what they're doing, it's more about what I'm not acknowledging. It's about what I'm not accepting, it's what I am not appreciating, it's what I haven't accelerated beyond. That's got me paralyzed to the point where I can't think straight, I can't move, I can't do anything. So I immediately go to this easy place of, well, they must not like me. No, how about you might have some things that you have to deal with. And once you deal with you and you deal with the things that you're dealing with, once you deal with your insecurities, once you start dealing with your envy, your jealousy, when you start dealing with your lack of confidence, your lack of self-efficacy, when you start dealing with what you lack, then all of a sudden, dealing with these other people might not be so bad. So that's what I mean. Understand that there might be times when people are plotting against you. That's one thing. But there's going to be some times when you're working against something, when we are working, we are acknowledging something that's going on in our lives, and we want to place the blame on somebody else. And we want to give all the responsibility, we want to give all the blame and give all of the power to someone else versus reclaim that power and figure out, how am I impacting the situation? Is it just me? Am I bugging out? Am I bugging out? Am I allowing some fear of something, some uncertainty, some insecurities? Am I allowing these things to impact the way that I think about myself? And because of how I think about myself, I think that other people think that same way about me. And that's the root of it. Not what they're doing, but more so what I'm doing. So that's it, man. Unconscious bias. I guess there's only one point of contact, and that is beware of unconscious bias. Beware of it when you're dealing with people, all right? And then also beware of it when you're dealing with yourself. And when you're in situations you think people are plotting against you, and you think you're attracting this energy, how about this? Stop looking for it. Stop looking for the negativity. If you stop looking for it, you won't find it, and it won't find you. If you like, man, things are always going wrong for me, it's cool, but are you probably looking for it though? Are you getting up every single day looking for the negativity? Are you getting up every day looking for somebody to treat you unfairly? Are you getting up every day looking for somebody to prejudge you and then hold you back? Will Smith said that blame is one thing, but he says blame is bad. But he says we can't get caught up in the blame game. We can't blame somebody for our lack of happiness. It's our responsibility to figure out what's going on in our lives, make sense of it, and then convert that into happiness, to convert that into productive behavior. It's our responsibility. It's not everybody else's responsibility to make you happy. It's your responsibility to make you happy. I understand it. Things happen. I understand it. Alcoholic, abusive relationships, I get it. Father left, dad left, mom left, I get it. God took somebody from your family a little too early, I understand it. Now what? You mourn, be upset. Okay, but at some point, now what? And now you got to figure out a way to turn this into some goodness. Because I'm pretty sure you didn't experience that just so you could be evil for the rest of your life. So unconscious bias, it's when you start looking for all the signs to confirm that all your negative thoughts are correct. And when you look at life that way, those negative thoughts, they find you. So that's it, man. Greatness lives on the edge of death. I am not afraid to die. I will fight for my dreams. I will celebrate my dreams, and I will die for my dreams. Thoughts are things, and everything starts off as a thought first and springs from a place of mindfulness and clarity. My name is Mar Fox Jr., Miles Davis, Unconscious Bias. It's Thursday. I'm dope, and so are you. Done.